Joyous evening, one and all. Here are the topics. Either A theory explains everything, or your claim God is imaginary. The dictionary I'm providing for this conversation is the Webster's to New College Dictionary. Right there. Major premises. If the language / communication method originates from a divine cosmic deity, it would require no human engineered dictionaries to be understood. Minor premise. Every religious text, definition, and claim presented by a human being relies entirely on human engineered dictionaries and local grammar to be understood. Conclusion. Therefore, every religious claim presented by a human being originates from a local human engineered source, not a divine cosmic deity. In other words, I start every single interaction with my fellow human beings with the question, please provide the dictionary you want to use for this conversation as 100% physical evidence their claimed gods do not exist. That question being, what dictionary are you providing for this interaction? Question one, what dictionary are you providing for this interaction? Actually and literally gets the interlocutors on the same page. It increases the possibility and potential for accurate, clear communication. It stops equivocation. It removes every single claim God from the conversation, since every single dictionary is descriptive, not prescriptive. If your interlocutor's claim God has not provided any words or definitions of those words and is thus using human words, then I know the meaning of every single word, and so does my interlocutor. It shows self-respect. It shows self-awareness and awareness of others. It shows self-appreciation and appreciation of others. It shows sympathy, aka a functioning prefrontal cortex, absent stress hormones. It increases individual and interdependent safety, and it stops pronoun ignorance. How can you claim you don't know what a pronoun is if you've agreed upon a dictionary? Question two, what are your surroundings? Actually gets the interlocutors in the same reality. Increases individual and interdependent safety. Assesses the ecosystem's biometric markers. Assesses. Did I say accesses? Assesses. Question three, what is your inner voice self story? The most important story in the universe, in my opinion. Dictates how now information, data, information, knowledge is assessed, processed, and addressed. What is your inner voice self story? It's a story you tell yourself about yourself. Whose voice tells that story to you? Is it your own voice? Others' voices? Your parents, your spouses? The mean kids' voices at school? A priest, the imam's, the rabbi's voice? And the manner in which the story is told to you. Is it a friend telling that story? Showing self-respect, the source, I've changed this. Self-respect defined as being the competence at being oneself. Hello, viewer. Links on the bottom. Here are the topics. A theory explains everything, or your claim God is imaginary. What would you like to hear? Would you like to participate? Self-respect is the foundation of the world. Peace. Starting statement. The dictionary I am providing for this conversation is the Webster's 2 New College Dictionary. Actual physical dictionary. Major premise. If a language/communication method originates from a divine cosmic deity, it would require no human engineered dictionaries to be understood. Minor premises. Every religious text, definition, and claim presented by a human being relies entirely on human engineered dictionaries and local grammar to be understood. Conclusion, therefore, every religious claim presented by a human being originates from a local, human engineered source, not a divine cosmic deity. In other words, I start every single interaction with my fellow human beings with the question, please provide a dictionary you want to use for this conversation. As 100% physical evidence, their claim God does not exist. Why do I ask for a dictionary? Because it actually and literally gets the interlocutors on the same page. It increases possibility and potential for accurate, clear communication. It stops equivocation. It removes every single claimed God from the conversation. Every single dictionary is descriptive, not prescriptive. If your interlocutors claim God has not provided any words or definitions of those words and is thus using human words, then I know the meaning of every single word, and so does my interlocutor. It shows self-respect, shows self-awareness and awareness of others. It shows self-appreciation and appreciation of others. It shows sympathy, aka functioning prefrontal cortex, absent stress hormones. It increases individual and interdependent safety. If we're on the same page, we're safer. If we're using different words and talking past each other, we're less safe. It stops pronoun ignorance. Question 2, what are your surroundings? Actually gets the interlocutors in the same reality. If I describe my surroundings, I'm in a very safe dwelling. I feel comfortable and relaxed. It increases individual and independent safety. If we were in the same location and one person was claiming that the structure was not sound and the other one was claiming it was sound, there's a problem. We're both less safe. Assesses the ecosystem's biometric markers. I can assess your level of stress. You can assess my level of stress. Question 3, what is your inner voice self story? The most important story in the universe, in my opinion. It dictates how now data, information, knowledge is assessed, processed, and addressed. It's the story you tell yourself about yourself. Whose voice tells that story to you? Is it your own voice, others' voices, your parents, your spouses? The mean kids from school, a priest, and a mom's, a rabbi's voice. The manner in which the story is told to you. Is it a friend telling the story? Self-respect, defined as competence at being oneself from the source, practice, and application of awareness, appreciation, accountability, and healthy curiosity. Do you make eye contact with yourself in the mirror and smile at yourself? That shows self-respect. It shows appreciation. Makes eye contact with their fellow human beings and smiles at them. Practices the inverse golden rule. Do unto oneself as one would have others do unto thyself. If one does not want to be kicked in the groin by another, one does not kick oneself in the groin. Is the voice a frenemy? Practices dwelling, regret, worry, anxiety, remorse. Kicks oneself in the groin. Enemy. Toxic behaviors towards oneself. Smoking, alcohol consumption, illicit drug use. A measure of individual and interdependent safety. Question 4. What are your emotional attachments? Emotional attachments. A deep, often subconscious, mental, and emotional bond with people or objects that fosters feelings of safety, comfort, and security. Like generational baggage. Stories. Memories. Families. Sports teams. Religion. Rabbit's feet and special socks. Lucky rabbit's feet and special socks. Questions every single fellow human being needs to have answers to before asking every single interlocutor, before every single interaction, every single time. In other words, you need to know these answers for yourself before you can ask another fellow human being what their answers are to these questions. World peace, an ideal state of harmony and non-violence among all nations and people. Self-respect. I changed this. I start out with confidence. I already read this off. So Control X, Control V, Capital C. Competence of being oneself from the source, practice, and application of awareness, appreciation, accountability, and healthy curiosity. The source of self-respect is the origin, beginning, or supplier of something, whether it is information, a physical object, or a cause. You are the source of your self-respect. I am the source of my self-respect. That's it. Self is inside this epidermis. Yourself is inside your epidermis. There's no God involved. There's no parents involved in that. I'm the source of my self-respect. You are the source of your self-respect. Practice is the application or is the act of performing an activity or skill repeatedly to improve proficiency or to make it a habit. When you practice self-respect, it means you're good at respecting yourself. It means you're good at showing self-respect, showing respect to your fellow human beings because the source is yourself. Awareness is a state of being conscious, perceptive, and acknowledgeable about surroundings, internal sensations, or specific information. That's to be aware. Appreciation is acknowledging, understanding, or assessing the worth, quality, or significance of a person, object, or concept. Appreciation is a prefrontal cortex mechanism. Gratitude is for children. That's why it's appreciation. It's for adults. That's what adults do. They appreciate when they understand something. If you want to value something, appreciate something, you have to know the value of it. To know the value of it, you have to understand it. The deeper you understand it, the deeper your appreciation of it is. Accountability is the obligation to own your own actions, behaviors, and decisions. That's what accountability means. Healthy means to achieve a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Curiosity is the eager desire to learn, investigate, or explore. In other words, I have no idea who you are. I'm curious who you are. I'm always curious who the fellow human being I'm interacting with is. I don't assume I know them, even though I might have met them the day before, because I don't know what has happened in the time frame since I met them to when I'm meeting them now. They could have had a stroke. They could have had a very bad day. So I don't assume. I don't have expectations of who they are. I'm curious of who they are. I let them tell me who they are, and then I see if what they've told me correlates with what I think I see. Competence is the demonstrated ability, skill, knowledge, and behavior required to perform tasks or roles effectively to an expected standard. I'm competent at being myself because I don't kick myself in the groin. I don't smoke. I don't do illicit drugs. I don't drink alcohol. This is like an engine, right? This ecosystem is like an engine. I don't pour diesel into my gas engine, and I don't pour sugar into the gas tank either. That wouldn't be a very competent car owner. I'm a competent driver because I don't crash into the parked cars. I don't hit my fellow pedestrians. I brake and all the other things. Oh, there. I didn't see that. Dude, please stop reading the slides. You know the material. Just talk. Okay. Yeah, but how do you want to engage then? Just talk. I am talking. I'm reading the slide. I'm making it easier for you. Engage. Put the link on the join the conversation. It's much easier. Do you want to talk about invisible gods, or do you want to talk about a theory explaining everything? Sorry, I didn't see your text before. I don't know. You gotta tell me. Until you tell me, I'm just gonna have to keep reading the slide because this is what the topic is. What is white self-respect bankruptcy? The pattern I recognize in my fellow white cisgender male fellow human beings, blaming not white fellow human beings for their quote-unquote problems, with scare quotes, blaming not cisgender fellow human beings for their quote-unquote problems. January 6, 2021 behaviors exhibited by my fellow white cisgender human beings as is evidenced by news reports and self-reporting videos and pictures. Not very respectful. Self-respect bankruptcy. Claiming to not use pronouns. Anybody who claims not to use a pronoun is not showing self-respect. Is an example of self-respect bankruptcy. Does white male self-respect exist? I personally think it does. And all good. I didn't realize it was interacted. Yeah, I watched your video earlier. This is equals MC squared. No good. This is equals MC squared. No idea what that is. Is that you again, Michael? We can talk about that document here. I'll bring up that document if that's what you want to talk about. Is that you again, Michael? Or is this a new viewer? No, it's a new viewer. Sorry. It's just hard to explain, but what caught my attention was when you were saying that the bonds cannot return once they've broken apart or something. Michael, if that's you, yeah. So let's look at this pencil. This pencil is intact, correct? Nothing wrong with it. Once I break it, it's not intact anymore. That intact, structurally sound pencil will never exist again. Now, since the break was there, I can put it back together. Like this, right? But you can still see the break, right? I can tape it, I can glue it. But the pencil, the structurally sound pencil, will never exist again. Now, I have another pencil, right? So it has the same structural soundness as this pencil had, but this pencil will never be the same again. So when a proton chain reaction happens inside a star, two protons with their own Minkowski coordinate, one at t sub 0, comma x sub 0, comma y sub 0, comma z sub 0, and one at t sub 1, comma x sub 1, comma y sub 1, comma z sub 1, right? They're there. And they're there for 9 million years until the weak nuclear force allows gravity to defeat the strong nuclear force. Because for 9 million years, the strong nuclear force does not allow gravity to force them into the same Minkowski coordinate. But under the governance of the weak nuclear force, whenever it allows it, these two protons now occupy the same Minkowski coordinate. Bonds are broken. From those two protons, what happens are a positron is released. In other words, the three bonds, because a proton is made up of three quarks, an up quark, a down quark, two up quarks and a down quark. Same for this one, two up quarks, two down quarks and an up quark, two up quarks and a down quark. So there's three bonds. So there's 6 bonds total. They come together. A positron is released. In other words, a bond is broken. Energy is expelled. That positron instantaneously gets negated by one of the electrons that are floating around due to the dense state of the star due to gravity. Excuse me. I don't know what that is. Yes. And then two gamma photons, I think they are, get expelled. Leave the star as light, traveling at light speed, never to be in that local environment again. Bonds are broken. Energy is now lost. Mass is now lost. The two protons will never exist. A neutrino is created. An electron neutrino, I think it's called, is released. That instantaneously goes through the whole mass, that dense mass of the star, with no problems. It goes through that mass without flinching, and it is instantaneously gone. Mass is now reduced. Energy is now reduced. And a deuterium is created. And that deuterium instantaneously picks up one of the protons that's just floating around and becomes a helium atom. So from one proton and one proton, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. The weak nuclear force allows those protons to be placed into the same Minkowski coordinate by gravity. The weak nuclear force loses. Bonds are broken. A positron is expelled. instantaneously canceled out with a electron, and a gamma photon is expelled, or 2 gamma photons are expelled. Loss of energy, bonds broken. Just like the pencil, never to be seen again. Ever. Liquidated. The neutrino that's created flies out, no problems. And the deuterium hooks up with another proton and becomes a helium. Helium-3. That proton is never, if the laws of identity holds, if A is equal to A cannot be both A and not A, and A has to be either A or not A. If that holds, just like that pencil that was there before, it will never exist again. That identity is broken and never exists again. This pencil has a new identity because it's now less structurally sound. Whether I glue it or tape it, it's gone. E is equal to, energy is equal to the, how did I state it in the paper? I forget how I stated it in the paper. E is equal to the delta, energy is equals mass delta deficit times the speed of light squared. There's now a mass deficit. The positron is gone. As photons, they're gone, never to return. Let's say it's the sun, never to be seen again because of time. No, never to be seen again because they head outwards. Outwards. That's it. Unless the universe is a circle and it comes around and comes back to the sun or to the star. But let's say it's our sun, it's our star, and it goes to the Earth, that photon, which is pure energy, no mass, and it hits a piece of gravel. Is the deuterium required for helium to form, or are there other ways? That is a heavier isotope of hydrogen. Is that right? No, it's not. It's not an isotope. No, it's not an isotope. It's a helium. An isotope of a hydrogen was deuterium. The deuterium was what's the sign? Oh, it's D. It's D, right? As soon as there's 2 protons, it's a helium. It's not a hydrogen isotope. It's a helium. It's a isotope of helium. It's the helium-3, but it's not hydrogen anymore. That's how the heavier elements, and that happens again and again and again up to carbon, iron. That's what happens in that star, in those stars. So a deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, but once it is expelled from the proton chain reaction and is expelled, there's a whole bunch of protons that are being forced into that star because of the weak nuclear force for 9 million years. Because without the weak nuclear force, the star would just instantaneously blink out. But instead, they're around for 9 million years because the weak nuclear force is the governor. Gravity's doing what gravity does. The strong nuclear force is doing what it does. And for 9 million years, or however long it's that those 2 protons are in that star, until it's allowed by the weak nuclear force, they would just bounce around in there. And then once the weak nuclear force says, okay, you can come into it, right? And the positron is expelled, the neutrino is expelled, the deuterium Anyway, the deuterium finds another proton and becomes a helium atom. This is explained by A theory. It explains everything about this process. B theory does not. B theory claims that that the universe is a block, that all those points exist. According to B theory, those two protons still exist somewhere. The strong nuclear force is still holding those three quarks together. That takes energy. That's an active process. So B theory, just saying that the universe is static, a block, is nonsense. Saying that the two protons still exist is nonsense. It violates the first law of thermodynamics because in A theory, the energy is conserved because you have the positron that gets annihilated with an electron, and a gamma photon gets expelled that can go out and hit a piece of gravel on Earth and warm the gravel. Energy is equal to mass deficit delta times the speed of light squared. But in B theory, the two protons, even though they get forced into the same Minkowski coordinate due to gravity, is that you again, Michael? That was the last question. I guess not. Anyway, so B theory is rubbish. Zero math backs it up. All the math backs up A theory. So why was B theory suggested? Why is it the prevalent viewpoint of physicists? And I'm not a physicist. I'm just a schmuck on YouTube. Unfortunately, all the math is in my court. All the math is in my quiver. They're all my arrows. The Wheeler-DeWitt constraint backs me up. Energy equaling the mass deficit delta times the speed of light squared backs me up, because it's E equals delta mass times the speed of light squared. There's a deficit there. There's a mass, and then there's less mass. That delta is hidden, and physicists have sniffed their own farts for so long that they forget the delta sign. And that's why B theory fails. B theory explains nothing. A theory explains everything, as is evidenced by the proton-proton chain reaction in a star. And the weak nuclear force, physicists have ignored forever and a day, is the governor. That's why there's entropy. That's the second law of thermodynamics. Because the two protons, the bonds were with the three quarks and three quarks, the bonds were broken by proton-proton chain reaction. The bonds were broken, but energy needs to be conserved. And it is conserved under A theory. A theory explains everything. A theory explains memories, dreams, metabolism, the human condition. It explains everything. B theory explains nothing. It's rubbish. Well, it's been a half hour. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy your weekend.